UFC Fight Pass presents Extra Rounds, live from the Fight Pass studios in Southern California. Here's your host, TJ DeSantis. Extra Rounds.
It is Extra Rounds here on UFC Fight Pass. Hey, everybody, I'm TJ DeSantis. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. Appreciate you taking a moment out of your day to spend it with me. Let's be honest, you're not here to spend it with me. You're here to spend it with the great Ray Longo, who always joins us on Extra Rounds. Ray, how are you?
TJ, my man, doing good.
You like my new fight kit? My wife got me this for my birthday.
Man, now you're official. You got the Venom fight kit.
Yeah, my stand-up's already better. You don't even know.
Matter of fact, now that I think about it, how tall are you?
About 6 foot.
What's your weight?
Too much. I could make heavyweight right now. I'll tell you that.
Let me tell you something. After this, send me your address. I got a lot of jackets for you.
Oh, yeah?
Double XL, yeah. I look to give them away to people.
All right. Normally I wear an XL, but these Venom things, they run a little tight.
Yeah, right. Is that an XL or a double XL?
It's a double X. It's a double X.
They're cut tight. You're right.
The XL fits me like a medium, though. So
right.
We
got you covered. You're gonna be geared up.
You don't even need to send it to me, Ray. Like I could just come see you. I'll be in New York in like 5 days. 4 days.
I'll give it to Iaquinta. He'll drop you off a nice bag full of stuff.
I don't know if we're gonna have time, but I'd really love to come by the gym while I'm out there. To be honest.
Oh, that would be awesome, man.
Yeah.
Anytime.
I don't know where Long Island really is, but I think I could find it.
No. You'll be there. What day are you getting in next week?
Tuesday.
You're coming to the gym.
All right. Perfect.
Awesome.
Hopefully I just didn't sign up for like punching bag.
No,
stuff.
Definitely.
All right. Obviously, I'll be in New York to watch Israel Adesanya. He takes on Alex Pereira. Ray, we're going to kind of break down some things about Izzy because he's been a champion now. He's got 5 title defenses in the middleweight division. We're going to be focusing primarily on his middleweight run and just throw that Jan Blachowicz fight out the window when we look at some stats. But obviously, next Saturday night, he is taking on Alex Pereira, a familiar foe, a man that owns 2 wins over Adesanya, both in kickboxing, 1 knockout and 1 decision. Ray, when I look at this fight, it's not a hard sell for me to make sure I'm in front of the television for a variety of reasons. One is the simple fact that this is a bit of redemption for Israel Adesanya. Granted, it's not necessarily mixed martial arts losses that are in his past, but Izzy's fired up for this, man. He really wants this, I would say, win back. It's 2 wins that Pereira owns over him, but still, he wants to prove that he can beat this man. Yeah,
look, it's always super important when you come back and beat a guy that beat you, right? And I think Izzy's hitting that, for his legacy, I think that'll be a huge thing to come back and win this fight. But I have to tell you, man, super excited about this fight. I think there's things Izzy does to everybody else that he will not be able to get away with Pereira. And, it is not kickboxing. Now we got the gloves are smaller. So I think the first guy that gets hit hard could be that could be the end of the night. And, who's going to implement an MMA strategy as opposed to a kickboxing strategy? Not that either of these guys are the best wrestlers, but it almost reminds me of like what happened with Cyril Gane and Ngannou, right? 2 vicious strikers.
Yeah,
that fight was decided on the floor.
Right.
I think we might see the same thing here.
Yeah, I mean, they were joking that night in Anaheim, calling Francis Ngannou Francis NCAA Ngannou because he was working that wrestling. And you're right, it is a different style fight. And granted, even if it does start on the feet, we've seen in the past there are just simple differences that don't make MMA the same as straight kickboxing. Yes, they can stand there and just kickbox, but the element of maybe he'll shoot, maybe he'll try to tie me up, maybe I'll get stuck in the clinch, that changes the approach for everyone and everything. And while it's been a fast rise for Pereira, Izzy's been pretty damn good in mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I'm either guy, right, I'm almost doing what like Sanhagen did to Song Yadong. just go for the takedown. Put that thought in his mind.
Right.
They might need that type of edge in the striking because they're so similar, and that'll be so close that any little hesitation or any, one little opening, and the fight could be over. And that's the way I'm looking at that fight.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about this. And I mentioned what it means to Adesanya. He was quoted this week in the media as saying, F the belt, beating Pereira is what matters. What do you think about that mindset of Adesanya? Because this fight, I mean, he does talk a little smack to his opponents, but this one seems to be a lot more personal, a lot more important to him than just another title defense.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what he means by that. Fuck the belt, beating Pereira is what matters. What does that actually mean?
I think that, to me, the way that I interpret it is I don't care about adding another title defense to my legacy. I don't care about walking out the building as the champion. I care about making a statement. I care about going out there and beating a guy that beat me twice before and doing it in a way that sort of cements the statement. Look, even if Adesanya gets the win at MSG next Saturday night, Pereira's still going to have 2 wins over him. But if this is the most recent win by Adesanya and it's done so in a way where maybe he knocks him out or he hurts him or just, styles on him,
right,
then it says more than the 2 previous defeats.
Right. Yeah, but he still gets to keep the belt. So they go hand. My point is they go hand in hand.
Yeah,
right?
I'm saying that he said F the belt because he doesn't need that motivation, the extra motivation.
Exactly, right, yeah. Yeah, I got you. So that makes sense. But yeah, look, man, he's been playing it safe the last couple of fights, right? I don't think he could get away with that with this guy. This guy could match him in technique, I think, and I think that's the difference. He's got a crazy reach. They both have long reaches, but I think the things that Adesanya normally just gets out of the way of, he's not going to be able to do with this guy.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how much it will look like the kickboxing meetings. We will sort of see what mindset the champion is in. But I want to ask you, Ray, sort of our little segment that we always like to do, buy or sell. Does Izzy have to style on Pereira? Because like you said, he's been, I don't want to say conservative in his last few title defenses, but he has been fighting in a way where, he's not flat out getting booed out of the building, but there are a lot of people that are paying a lot of money to see him fight and not feeling like they saw the Israel Adesanya that was the guy on the come up to the belt.
Right. I think you're right with that. But the difference here is that I think they sense that Pereira could be the guy to beat him.
Sure.
And that, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think
so are you saying if Izzy wins, do you think he takes that conservative route? He plays the game and wins on points?
No. If he wins, I'm going to say if he wins, he knocks Pereira out.
Okay.
I don't think he outpoints him.
Okay.
He could. He's the faster guy, but it's not going to be like what you see against like a Vettori.
Sure.
Or you know what I'm saying? It's definitely going to be a different type of fight. Those guys don't have the technical. Or Jared Cannonier, who's super strong and he's a beast, but he doesn't have the technicality of a Pereira. I mean, I like the way even Pereira was explaining how he knocked out Strickland. He's going in there with a mindset that's similar to Izzy's, right?
Okay.
Where these other guys are they're more muscling in, trying to overpower him, and that plays into Izzy's hand. He wants that, where he could just lean back and snipe you. You know what I mean? I don't think he could do that with this guy.
Yeah.
And if you see what this guy's doing. He obviously has lead in his left hook, so I think that's going to be the other thing, too, is, you're the champion. You want to stay the champion. There's big money with the champion.
Right, yeah.
Does that force him to be a little conservative, which helps, the other guy? Or does he go to make the statement, which puts him at more risk to get knocked out, and then he loses that? I don't know, a lot to unpack, like a lot. That's what makes the fight intriguing to me. Right. I'm kind of curious to see what approach both guys go. They both have great corners. Eugene Bamman's one of the best coaches out there, and he'll strategize. I'm sure he's going to have Izzy fighting an MMA fight. And the same with Glover, another great trainer, great jiu-jitsu guy. So he could, hopefully he's preparing him for anything on the floor to takedowns. And, that's exciting to me, is just to see how they approach the fight, both of them.
Yeah, let's take a look at Adesanya as a challenger and as a champion a little bit, at least from a number standpoint, because I firmly believe that we have seen a different, more conservative last style bender. You know, he's a guy that goes out there and he does what he needs to do to win the fight. And if he turns some fans off, then he turns some fans off. I mean, it was apparent in the Yoel Romero fight. You know what I mean? Like, Adesanya had a game plan. He wasn't going to break off of it. He ultimately got it done. But as a challenger, this is what Adesanya's rise to the belt looked like. Average fight time was 14 minutes and 34 seconds, which makes sense. Most of those fights were 15-minute bouts, but still taking majority of those the time allotted to get the win. Significant strike percentage 51.7. His average significant strikes thrown per fight 128.5, and then significant strikes thrown per minute a little under 9. And there was that finishing rate, obviously big. So let's see what the numbers are as a champion, because if he is conservative, the numbers should tell that story. Average fight time as a champion, 21:48. Obviously, going the distance, and a lot of those fights going to change that. The striking percentage, though, pretty similar. He's at a little above 51% as a champion. He's at 50%. A lot more strikes thrown per fight, 159.2. And then when it comes to the significant strikes thrown per minute, less than he was as a challenger. So let's throw those stats side by side so you can see. Ray, like, the finishing rate is obviously different. He finished, double the amount of fights that he had as a contender than as a champion. But everything else to me seems to be kind of a wash. He's throwing more strikes per fight. Granted, they're 5-round fights. He's landing pretty much at the same rate. The numbers tell me, Ray, that he's fighting the same sort of style, but the opponents, the opposition, they don't go away as easily.
I tell you, well, or you could look at it this way, like those significant strikes. He was 128, I think, to 150. He has to throw more strikes to play it safe. I think. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that. I think that's why. So because look, if you look at it this way, I mean, everybody's tough, right? Everybody in there is pretty tough, but you're throwing more strikes, but your finishing rate went down 20%. So you're not trying for the knockout. You're just trying to pepper the guy and play it safe. I don't know. That's the way I could interpret them, but I'm sure they could be interpreted a million ways. But when you're throwing more strikes and you're getting less knockouts, yeah, you could say the guys are tougher, but I don't know about that.
I mean, he is landing less, but it's minimal. It's a shade over 1%, but it would seem to me that the guys would be getting tougher. Your finishing rate probably normally goes down when you're the champion, but I don't know, Ray. Like, even those numbers, I see those. I calculated them, and granted, I'm not the greatest at math, so there's the disclaimer there. But I will say those numbers did surprise me, because I thought we were going to see a lot less. I thought the striking accuracy was going to go down. I thought the amount of punches per minute were going to go down, but that's not the case.
Right. Yeah, I'd have to look at I mean, I'm just going to say, just take the Romero fight. Does that fight fit into any of those numbers at all?
It does, and I can tell you the rates for the Romero fight if you want. Let me get my pen and paper here. The output for Romero, in 25 minutes, he threw 132 significant strikes. His percentage was 36%, so it was significantly lower than his average of 50%. What's his output when it comes to throwing strikes per minute? Strikes thrown per minute, or strikes thrown per fight, 159.2. In that fight, 132. So yeah, I mean, you threw about 20 some odd strikes less.
I mean, he's consistent then.
Right.
I mean, I would think that fight, those numbers don't even. I mean, I remember that fight being a couple of leg kicks here and there, moving. Right. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at that fight again. It just doesn't seem to match up in my head when I'm thinking about it, but those are the numbers.
I feel the same way. And, obviously I got the numbers from Fight Metric, so those numbers are as good as they come, the same stats that the UFC uses, but a little bit shocking to me, Ray, because I thought for sure we were going to see some numbers that skewed towards a story of Adesanya being more conservative. But
right.
I'm definitely going to play with those numbers a little bit and maybe try to figure out what the average decline is for champions, because, I mean, you're fighting 25-minute fights. Things are going to change, I think, drastically when it comes to the output. But
I agree, 100%.
Yeah, let's quick hit on our co-main event. I kind of feel bad for these ladies. Carla Esparza taking on Zhang Weili. It's the co-main event on a card that is stacked in the most famous arena in the world. Esparza came in and got that belt against Rose Namajunas back in May in Phoenix, and it was interesting because it was a fight where we see fights all the time, I think, in MMA where they're good, entertaining fights, and I say that, there's no real loser there. Unfortunately, in the fans' minds, both Rose and Carla sort of lost that night in Phoenix, but it was Carla who got her hand raised and recaptured her belt. She defends against a lady who's pretty familiar with Madison Square Garden. Zhang Weili was in action a year ago against Thug Rose. So the New York fans might be pulling for Zhang Weili and the former champion against Carla Esparza. What do you think about this one, Ray?
Oh, man, I'm going to go with Weili on this one. Man, that last fight was just rough to watch with her and Ben Rose. There's just nothing really happened, so I don't think there was any growing in that fight. If anything, it was counterproductive because everybody disliked it, right? Which you have to block out all that noise. But did she get the repetitions and she needed for this fight? I'm going to say no. I think the edge definitely goes to Weili. I think it's going to be similar to Carla's first fight with Joanna, where she got stuffed a couple of times. She had to stand up, and it was the beginning of the end. And that's the way I'm seeing this fight. I think she's going to be hard to hold down, even if she takes it down. And the more that goes on, the more chances it gives Weili to finish the fight.
Yeah, I think from an output standpoint, if Zhang Weili is not deterred by the wrestling offensive of Carla Esparza, that's going to be a tough night for Carla. Carla's going to have to establish that shot early.
That's the key. And Carla, how old is Carla now?
Let me pull that up. I think she's got to be right around 30, maybe 31, maybe older than that.
No, she's got to be older.
I don't know. Carla Esparza age. Let's see here. 35.
Okay, then how old was the other girl? Do we know? Not that it's important, but
let's see. I can type that in. I know how to use Google. One thing I will say as I type this in, Ray, do you think women have a longer fighting life age-wise? Because I feel like we have a lot of women that sort of are reaching their primes, in their mid-30s and sometimes fight to 38, 39, where we're talking about most guys starting to slow down a little bit when they're getting, mid-30s.
Yeah, I don't think they take the damage that the guys take.
Sure.
And I think that helps with longevity. But
Zhang Weili's 33 years old.
Okay, so they're pretty even with that.
Yeah.
I think once you start crossing over 35, though, it gets a little tougher. You know what I mean? Unless you're unless you're like a 45er, maybe you get you still have the power and stuff, but 35 and you still have to push that wrestling. I don't think that's easy to do.
Absolutely not. I mean, that grind never gets easier.
That grind never gets easy. And the other problem is when you're fighting somebody who could strike, how much emphasis do you want to put on that so you don't gas yourself out in doing that? You know what I mean? So there's a lot that goes into it, you know?
Yeah, and you're going back to that Rose fight. I feel like Rose was a lot more concerned with that takedown than she thought she would be, and obviously Carla didn't have to really put a lot of output out other than moving forward, because it was a fight that was won basically, in my opinion. The judges saw Rose not engaging the way that they want to and scored it for Carla Esparza, and I just don't see Zhang Weili doing that. I see Zhang Weili fighting her fight and not getting deterred.
Yeah, she's not, because if you even look, you got to remember too, if I'm not mistaken, like even Rose's corner was telling her, I think she was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's a totally different mindset. I think Weili puts a foot on the gas and she doesn't stop.
Yeah.
I think she's right. She's not going to fight maybe the first round, feel her out, but I can't see that going like that. I think there was just so much confusion in that last fight.
Yeah.
With everything, just the stars aligned for just a total fiasco.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see what happens, but it sounds like both of us are on that Zhang Weili side when it comes to the co-main event of UFC 281. We got a fun featured fight in the lightweight division. Michael Chandler returns to MSG to take on Dustin Poirier. Man, I cannot tell you how excited I am for this fight, right? Like, this is the fight. No offense to Adesanya or Esparza in defending their titles, but Poirier and Chandler, like, just take my money. This could be a main event.
Oh, without a doubt, plus, and Chandler, who's more entertaining than him? I still go back to that Gaethje fight where he was bringing him in with his hands.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, it's definitely going to be an exciting fight. I think the difference is though that Poirier's more of a, like, Chandler's got big knockout power with either hand, but one punch. He's not really a guy putting his combinations together.
Right.
And I think Dustin's got a decent enough chin that he could take a couple and you know, and come back with combos. Unlike, what happened in the Gaethje fight was like rock'em sock'em robots.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a little more technical, and I think Chandler. Like, again, I hope Chandler fights a smart fight. I know he wants to entertain everybody. He came into the UFC a little late, and he wants to make a statement. And I think so far he's doing it, but I think for Chandler to get the win, he's got to really mix in his wrestling with the striking.
Yeah, and we've talked about really every one of these fights from UFC 281 being a tactical sort of affair, and I think this one is no different, even though it has all the makings to be one of those fight of the night, rock'em sock'em robots that these guys really get after it. And like you said, like Michael Chandler, like we saw what he did to Dan Hooker. We've seen him throughout his career get on the mic and say those things, and the energy inside Madison Square Garden is going to be absolutely insane. He's going to want to entertain. But when I look at Dustin Poirier, to me, I just think if it's going to be a real tactical, sort of technical fight, I lean towards Poirier because he's got a more well-rounded approach on the feet. He can kickbox, a little bit cleaner than Chandler. And I honestly think that leg kicks could be something that play a big factor in this fight.
100%. 100%, and it'll be Dustin throwing the excuse me, the leg kicks, but depends where Chandler's his head is at, but it's got to be just a super exciting fight. There's no way around it.
What's weird to me, you mentioned where Chandler's head is at. I want to know where both of these guys' heads are at because they got into it, at a UFC pay-per-view, which sort of set this fight up. Like, this fight doesn't need to be sold. There's no fake drama needed to get people hyped for this, but they were jaw-jacking at one another, and that's weird to me because both of these guys, I mean, yeah, Poirier kind of got into it with Conor McGregor, but who doesn't, really?
Yeah, right. Now I'm saying these are two really nice guys. They might have been joring at each other, but I guarantee you fight night, they're high-fiving each other in there. And
yeah.
Of course, it'll be competitive, but, I mean, Michael's a super nice guy, and so is Dustin's a calm, mellow kind of guy. So I don't know what they were joring at, but they were probably their way of trying to sell the fight maybe a little bit. But that's not indicative of who either of these guys are from an outside observer looking in. You know what I mean? Obviously, McGregor could drive you off the rails. He'll bring the worst out of anybody. But you saw when they saw each other, they kind of did like a wrestling thing, and then they shook hands. I can't see that. I think they go in there, both guys very clear-headed, and
they also know what they're doing too. So jaw jacking a little bit, that just makes Sean Shelby run to the bout agreements a little bit quicker, maybe.
Yeah, that's it.
So all right, I put out some questions today on Twitter for a little bit of a Q&A, and got some questions from fans.
Really?
This one came to me on Twitter. I don't have the gentleman's name. It was in a direct message, but he wants to know, Ray, if you were the matchmaker in the UFC, what is next for Jorge Masvidal? Because Masvidal's been calling out Leon Edwards. They obviously have some beef, but this is a Masvidal that's coming off some losses as of late, and it's a Leon Edwards who's the reigning, defending, undisputed welterweight champion. It doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to put Masvidal in a title fight at this point, despite the fact that it would draw. I think anything with Masvidal on the B side of the card is going to sell pay-per-views and tickets, but it's kind of hard to justify that fight if you're the matchmakers.
Well, it makes absolutely no sense at all. Yeah. But because they had that scuffle in London, they could easily sell that fight and just keep replaying that, and people, new people will want to tune in. The old people, they'll remember that. So from a marketing standpoint, the fight 100% makes sense. But from who's next in line, I mean, Jorge would have to fight somebody as an elimination fight, and then the winner gets Edwards. I don't think you could throw him right in there. It's just, I don't think it would be fair to the people that have been winning and or on the the comeuppance.
For me, Kamaru Usman deserves a title fight before anybody else. Like he was in
Yeah.
control of that fight. He nearly won that fight.
Well, they are doing that. They're doing that, right? So they're doing that. So Jorge's got to wait.
Right, but I'm saying like he's not like Jorge's not even like a plan B. He's not the other welterweight that they bring in to put on the card to slide in there if something changes.
I don't know about that.
Maybe?
I don't know.
Right.
I mean, they could fly him over there just in case.
Right.
I could see that. And then people they're thinking like again the only reason that makes sense is because of the scuffle,
right?
Or the 3-piece in the soda, whatever the heck that was.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So you let Leon wants his redemption on that, but
I think I stumbled upon the right answer there, right? Because that's the only way I think it makes the most amount of sense is if something were to happen to Usman and the UFC and you go, look, we wouldn't have given this guy a title fight right out the gate, but shit happens.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, I could see that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited to see Masvidal back whenever it happens, but yeah, a title fight seems to be a little bit.
That's pushing it
too far out. So, I got a question for you. This is from TJ on
Oh.
Extra Rounds for Ray Longo. How much fun am I going to have with Iaquinta next week?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
We're gonna. How about this? We're gonna set Alphonse loose on you.
Uh-oh.
You're gonna rip up that city with him.
All right. That sounds fun.
I think you're gonna have a great time.
Yeah, we don't have the schedule quite yet, but I'm excited, and people can come out and meet Al. That's one thing that I love mostly about anything that we do with Extra Rounds is giving the fans that come to our broadcast a different, unique experience. You get to hang out and actually like talk to these athletes that otherwise seem to be always doing something. When you're going to like say an Iaquinta fight, he's weighing in, he's focusing on the fight. He's not going to be able to sit there and shoot the shit with you for 3 minutes.
Yeah. Well, now, are you going to be doing anything before Saturday?
We are. I don't have anything official yet, but
soon
as I
let
do.
Let me know, because I'll definitely be in the city. I'll 100% stop by.
Nice. I'll bring another headset. You can hang out. Put
nice.
more Extra Rounds in. So
beautiful.
I'm looking at producer Frankie here to see if he's got any questions. This is from Twitch. McLovin 0110 says, should fighters be punished for not disclosing injuries that would possibly cause them to not perform well? That's an interesting question. Obviously, coming off the TJ Dillashaw fight with Aljo, if I would have been the athletic commission, would have found out that Dillashaw had that shoulder issue, I wouldn't have cleared him. I don't think any regulator really would have cleared him. I hate to say it, but I think Dillashaw kind of put his foot in his mouth by being as honest as he was in the post-fight. But what do you think about that, Ray? I think the Athletic Commission is well within their rights to go after an athlete who doesn't disclose information like that.
Yeah, I almost want to say it depends on the injury, because obviously my guys, I don't know who's fought without an injury. It almost goes like that. You're going to be
banged up a little bit.
So
right?
It depends on what the injury was. That one, you see, like again, you're right. His honesty, obviously was to save his ego, but in saving his ego, he really opens up a Pandora's box. Like, what is the athletic? I'm saying if that fight was in Vegas, they're holding back his purse.
Dillashaw made everybody look bad.
All you got to do is say his shoulder popped out during the fight. Not that it popped out 20 times in the last 3 weeks. So,
he would have gained more fans, Ray, if he said it happened in the fight. Because, you made it through that first round.
100%. But when he goes back and says, this has been happening since April, then I think they got every right to be mad with him. You know what I mean? Like again, everybody I'm going to say is fighting injured to some degree. Yeah. That was a pretty big degree.
Yeah. No.
You know what I mean? But always your knuckles are bad. A guy's hand is swollen. You tweak your knee. That's not 100%. So they can't. No, you shouldn't have to disclose it, I don't think. But injuries like that.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to take the responsibility somewhere, whether it's the team, the athletic commission, somebody, because that fight, I can't see. Like, I've let guys fight injured, but I look at a lot of different things. But like, even look, Serrator's bicep, like 3 weeks before the Delonte fight, he wanted to fight, and he was more of a grappler. He got that fight to the floor. It was his only submission in the UFC.
Did you really just bring up the Kelly Delonte fight now?
I figured that you'd love that. I love it. Remember those times? But,
absolutely.
But this is different, man. This is I don't know. The shoulder thing was I think he made it worse.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, again, there's a way that you handle that correctly and come out looking like a hero.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. And one thing that I will say is, the UFC has insurance for these athletes throughout their training camp. If they get injured, they are covered to a certain extent. 15, 20 years ago, that wasn't the case. And you had a lot of guys coming into fights with torn ACLs, torn meniscus.
Oh, without a doubt.
Just to get fixed because they could say it happened in the fight, and then they got it taken care of.
That's another good point. Yeah, so they're not going to disclose anything. But, yeah, I think TJ did himself a disservice with his talking afterwards. I don't know.
And that's the thing, too, right? Like, this guy has continually put his foot in his mouth. It's just
he just doesn't get it. Obviously, there's a disconnect with a lot of things. Like, he thought what he was doing was okay.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's just digging a bigger hole for himself to fall into. So, yeah, that just, did he want to take away Aljo's shine a little bit? Who knows? You know what I mean? But was it a cash grab? It was definitely selfish. He didn't want to wait. He didn't want to get an operation.
Yeah.
He didn't want to take that chance. So that's a selfish move right there. There were other people that would have loved to be in that slot, Even if he got called out, hey, I'd love to fight you. Unfortunately, I'm injured right now.
Right.
But I hope we could do it at a different time. I mean, you're talking about the call out was in April.
Right. Yeah.
He could have went, he could have had surgery. Aljo had one title defense, and he's the next guy. But
100%. I mean, there was enough intrigue there that it wasn't a now or never sort of proposition.
No, without a doubt.
Yeah. Let's talk about your guy, Aljamain Sterling, a little bit, because I love the way that he conducts himself on social media, interacting with fans and media alike, and I think he might rub some people the wrong way, but he speaks his mind. He's the champion, and he's afforded that opportunity to do so. I saw a tweet from him kind of going after Henry Cejudo, who's been, chirping a little bit, saying that he wants a fight. But Aljo was basically saying, like, look, everybody's got to wait. I'm sitting for a while, and that's his prerogative. And I saw a lot of people, getting after him a little bit. And one thing that Aljo does that I don't necessarily like, and this comes from someone who shares their opinion about MMA for a living, I don't like that Aljo goes after people saying, hey, when's the last time you fought 5 rounds? When's the last time you were a champion in the UFC? It's sort of discrediting someone's opinion, but I will say the idea that he wants to sit for a minute and everyone else has to wait, that's great. And I think that's really important for someone at the highest level to make sure that they go through that recuperation process the way they want to, so they don't end up going out there and doing something foolish like TJ Dillashaw did.
Yeah, look, I mean, Aljo, first off, he might have said June, but you got to remember, TJ, a couple of things. I mean, the guy just gets done with the fight. Nobody asked him about Cejudo. He has to read it, right?
Yeah.
So you see with Dana when, he gets done with a fight like that and they go, what's next for, hey, I just got done with the fight. Let me sit on it for a while. All of a sudden, this one, they got the guy fighting in February.
Yeah.
Like, I'm almost saying if they would have waited a month and then asked him, he might have taken the fight.
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure.
But, his point is this, and this is true. The damage with most fighters is 100% done in the gym.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're not getting CTE from the fight.
No.
You're getting it for the 100 rounds preparing for the fight. Like, I don't think so. I don't even have a problem with when he says, when was the last time you fought 5 rounds? I think he's just making the analysis, like, you don't know what goes into it. He can easily rephrase the question like, guys, I hear what you're saying, but you don't get how hard a camp is. And that's where the damage is done. He could maybe have articulated it different, but I think that's where he's coming from, is that those camps take a lot out of him. And, you even making weight, that's not good for anybody.
No.
You're frying your internal organs for 24 hours, and nobody's going to tell you to keep doing that. You want that spread out as much as possible.
No.
And on the other hand, look, I love activity for fighters, but he earned the right to sit back. Henry Cejudo, he's not dictating anything. Who is needed?
No, and
Who is needed? That's the other thing. He just wants to interject himself in there.
Right.
All right, good. You said what you said, but I'm not acquiescing to that guy.
Yeah. Not to be hung up on the comment of, like, when was your last fight, but I will say this, Ray. Like, I think that there are media members that have done this for a really long time. And, like, you're right. I don't know what it's like to go through a championship camp. I can't say that with any accuracy, but I can say that I've covered UFC champions, and I think I have a fairly decent idea. But again, I don't know. I'm not in those shoes necessarily. But again, like my opinion is this, and it's in line with Aljamain's. Like he is the champion, and very often we see guys in the UFC just say, "I'll do whatever the UFC wants," and then sometimes they end up not doing what they want. But also we see guys speak up sometimes, and then you find out, Sean Shelby loves the idea. He's a fan of guys essentially trying to make his job easier, and. I think that, whether or not you agree with the message, a vocal champion is good for the division, it's good for the sport, and it's good for the company.
I tell you, see, that's a great point. Love him or hate him, you're going to tune in. I like that. I think you're spot on. They should embrace that, but I don't think they're thinking like that. I think they just don't like him. I was having a conversation with Wyden, and I did his podcast the other day, and he's like, why do you think they were pushing the Cejudo fight? I think they think Cejudo's got the better chance of beating him after watching the O'Malley fight. And that might be true. Yeah. They just, for whatever reason, and Aljo's a great guy. I can't stress this enough. He's a good guy who speaks his mind. And even again, if you don't agree with him, he's not saying it out of malice. Trust me. He's just trying to make a point, I think. And that's, that's what I've learned about him in the last couple of years, because he's definitely different. He's definitely quirky. But, man, is he honest, and he's not malicious one iota. He didn't even want to bat at TJ that bad because of the – I'm telling you,
he looked at the referee. He looked at Goddard like, really? Like, I'm doing this?
I mean, you heard us in the corner. I mean, I quit to screaming, no mercy. We're like a bunch of fucking wolves in the corner. We're telling him attack. We didn't give a shit.
Right.
But he made the decision. He was the responsible guy and did the right thing.
Yeah. It's just, again, going back to Aljamain's sort of mindset of going and saying what he wants and going out and taking it. Like, I'm a guy who's approaching 40 years old. I'm not the oldest guy in the world, right? But I'm not the youngest guy in the world. And that's one thing that I think you learn as you progress through life. Like, if you want things, you got to go out there and take them. Otherwise, they will not just fall in your lap. Even if you are the UFC's bantamweight champion of the world, you got to go make it known what you want so you can point back to it and then try to pursue it.
Listen, TJ, you're spot on tonight. I love this. This is really good. I mean, that's what he wants. Look, he knows he's got to make the most out of this opportunity, and that's what he's trying to do.
Right.
On all areas, whether it's acting or pursuing acting or starting his own liquor brand. He's a young kid who wants to fucking make the best of this time. And I admire and appreciate that. This is his way of going about it. He's not really a shit talker.
Right.
When we went to the fighter meeting, like when he's describing what he's going to do, he's coming in with like statistics and facts and why is he a better wrestler than me if I did this and this and he's a well thought out guy. He's always studying tapes. If I'm breaking down the fight, he's probably the first guy I talk to. You know what I mean?
The thing for me, Ray, and there are champions that have been, to the general public unlikable, if you will. But to me, Aljo, even if he's rubbing people the wrong way, it's really hard to argue with his logic. Like the things that he says make sense.
100%. Trust me. Look, if I'm having a problem, I'll go to. You always need a red and a green team.
Right.
He's
course.
like the green team. Whatever he's going to tell me, I haven't thought about. Trust me.
Yeah.
But then I think about it and I go, you know what? He's got a point.
Yeah. No, 100%. And that's the thing. If you're going to speak your mouth and it makes sense, it's going to be hard for people to poke holes through your logic. So
without a doubt.
Got another Twitch user chiming in. You say I'm on point tonight, Ray. Meet with Eyes 23 says Ray Longo should have his own stand-up show. Dude is funny.
We'll think about it.
I mean, I think that would be really hard because it's one thing to just have a conversation like we're having, but going up there and thinking about 6 minutes or whatever, like that's hard.
That's a lifetime.
Yeah, especially if you don't exactly know what you're going to say next. Trust me, I've been in that situation.
Yeah, that would be an interesting. I wouldn't mind trying that.
Yeah, I mean Eddie Bravo does it. I mean, if Eddie can do it, I'm not.
Is Eddie doing stand up?
Yeah, it's kind of like one half stand up, one half conspiracy, which is also just kind of funny the way. But
the conspiracy is what's funny. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's pretty honest about the stuff that he talks about. Like, I don't think he's just bullshitting anybody. I think he believes it. But Yeah, one thing I think you'll agree, it's not a conspiracy. I was with Eddie during the Aljamain and Dillashaw fight, and Eddie's a very high respected grappler. He said that he thinks that Aljo might have the best jiu-jitsu in the bantamweight division.
I'm going to tell you, Aljo's wrestling, MMA wrestling, and jiu-jitsu is sick.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. And he's super strong. He's not the smallest bantamweight either. He's pretty big, so he's got great control. No, he's spot on with that. I'm telling you, he's really, really good. Really good.
Yeah, I mean, just the way that he gets people's backs, and he's relentless from that situation. It's very, very tough to want to give Aljo an inch, because he will definitely take a mile. A couple more minutes here. If anybody has any questions, you're watching live on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, drop it in the message section, and we'll try to get it on here. Talk about whatever you want to talk about before we wrap things up. Is it cold there, Ray?
No.
I've been wanting some autumn weather in New York, but I'm afraid this heat wave's going to screw everything up for me.
You're going to get 60-degree weather. You're going to be fine.
What about at nighttime, though? I want to feel low 40s.
Oh, it's going to be there. You're going to have a good week.
I like it.
100%.
Is Lucky freaking out right now? Is that what I hear?
Lucky's freaking out right now. Right. Jeez, I tell you, you can hear that?
I can. I got a good ear, but it's kind of loud. It's all right.
Yeah, that dog. Just, the dog wants to be with me 24/7. She's been sitting next to me for literally 200 shows, and in the last couple of weeks, I can't even talk. She just started. It's crazy how that started. I mean, she's always been at every show. But,
that's I mean, you're not only doing this one. You got the Yannick and Florian podcast.
No. She destroyed that show. This one can't be as bad. This one isn't as bad as that.
Bad.
She destroyed that show.
It's all right. It's all right. I mean, no offense to Yannick and Kenny, but I'd rather have her destroy that show than this one. So I'm honest. I'm like Aljamain Sterling. I'm honest.
That's awesome.
All right, Ray, I'm going to let you get out of here. I appreciate your time, sir. Good catching up. Hopefully I'll see you here in a couple of days in New York City.
DJ, great talking to you tonight. Really, I think this might have been your best night. I don't know why I'm feeling that, but you were spot on with everything.
I appreciate that.
And I look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you, Ray. We're
going to have some fun. If you can make it to the gym, it'd be great.
It'll definitely happen. It has to.
All right, cool, man. I will talk to you next week.
Thank you, sir. Ray
Take it
Longo,
easy.
joining us here on Extra Rounds. Always a fan of Ray. You can catch him, as I said, on the Yannick and Florian podcast. I think that airs every Monday, which is also available now on UFC Fight Pass. We got a whole bunch of podcasts over on UFC Fight Pass. Let's take a look real quick. Yannick and Florian, Fitz Nation with Brendan Fitzgerald. You got Octagon Side with John Gooden. If you're more into the spicier subjects in life, Sex and Violence with Ashley Evans Smith is available for you. The OG of all UFC podcasts, it is UFC Unfiltered with Ray Longo's guy Matt Serra and Jim Norton. You got the Two Straws podcast, Angela Hill and Jessica Penne. My guy Dean Thomas is on The Lover and The Fighter. And, of course, this is Extra Rounds right here on UFC Fight Pass. What else is going on? Oh, I know what's going on. We got boxing tonight here live on UFC Fight Pass. Hollywood Fight Nights returns. You got a main event of the undefeated king, Callum Walsh, the Irish boxer who has been setting kind of everyone in a tizzy as of late, including UFC president Dana White. He's going to be looking for win number 5 tonight here, and you can watch it live on UFC Fight Pass. I actually had a chance to catch up with Callum Walsh, and we'll play that interview for you next. It's Extra Rounds right here on UFC Fight Pass.
Fight, 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 fight! We're coming to you from 3 floors below the Octagon with a show that's going to take a new look at some of the most insane moments in UFC history. This is probably going to ramp up slowly over time, and oh my God! This guy looks like if the local news had a magician on staff. Butterbean answering the age-old question, what if a thumb was a person? Yoga the Gathering? No, they're yoga trading cards. Trade you my mint condition Bikram rookie for your hot yoga future stars. Somebody! Most fun human centipede ever.
Are these guys twins?
No, they just dress like them. Weird, lame, right?
Enjoy, guys.
At UF Cuts, get ready to make a complete transformation.
I asked for the Cheeto Vera. And I love it.
Somebody call tech support?
No.
And you can take that to the bank.
It's the Nosebleed. Submit to the comedy. That is a solid business model. Agreed.
Hollywood Fight Night is back on UFC Fight Pass this Thursday, and of course, it's on UFC Fight Pass, so you should be tuning in because the story keeps going. King Callum Walsh, still undefeated, now 4-0, is back in the main event. And Callum, we've had you on extra rounds quite a bit. This is the first time, though, I think we've done it in the studio setting where we're not getting ready for a UFC main event, so we can chat a little bit more. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's nice to be there in person, but sometimes we have to do it like this.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think it's better to actually kind of get into your career rather than, try to do so alongside of a big fight night. So it's kind of a different, feeling and one that I enjoy a little bit because we're always talking about, the UFC and your affiliation with Tony Ferguson. Last time Tony was in the main event. But yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about you personally, Callum, because, at 21 years old, 4-0, the world is buzzing. How did you even get in this situation? Like, what first brought you to boxing?
When I was 6 years old, it was actually my dad brought me to a boxing gym, and I loved it. I just loved the idea of fighting. I loved training. I loved just trying to be better than everybody else in the gym, and obviously, I just stayed at it my whole life. And then I won a lot of things, and I tried to qualify for Olympics, and then that's when COVID hit, and all the gyms in Ireland shut down. Like, I was just training by myself, just training in my backyard and just running. And that's when I decided to come here to LA and get in with Freddie Roach, and showed up to the wildcard one day, and it's just been crazy ever since.
What is that like? Because obviously Freddie Roach and wildcard boxing has such a place in the history and the lore of boxing, not only in this country, but in the world. Were you intimidated at all, getting to know and meet Freddie Roach?
Yeah, I met him for the first time when I was 15. It was like years ago. I went to the wildcard, and then when I was going back there, I was 19 years old, and I knew I was like, right, I'm gonna try and be trained by Freddie. It was scary, And when I got there on the first day, and he said, right, sparring day, you need a spar. It was my first day after showing up there, and he was like, right, you need to spar with these pros. I was thinking, oh my god. And like, obviously I went in, I got the job done, I handled the business, and he wanted to keep me, and it's just been crazy.
That's phenomenal. Obviously growing up and working as a pro in the spotlight, Dana White is on board. Is all that pressure, is that something you still feel, or is it sort of business as usual?
Yeah, I don't feel the pressure now. I know at the end of the day, like, it's unbelievable to have Dana, have the support of Fight Pass, the UFC, all that promotion is crazy. But at the end of the day, I need to handle business. I need to get in there. I know I need to like win fights, because if I'm not winning fights, if I'm not putting in the work, just like, this stuff is pointless. So the pressure, I know there's pressure there to win, but I don't feel it. I know, like, it's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. I've been doing it my whole life. Just keep putting in the work and keep winning the fights and handle business.
So far, so good. 4-0. You go for win number 5. 3 of your 4 wins come by way of knockout. Do you feel the pressure to go out there and finish? I know you didn't finish in your last fight, but is that weighing on you at all?
My last fight, yeah, I was very disappointed I didn't get to finish. To be honest, I just don't like going the distance. I like even the way I spar. I always spar very hard. I've done that my whole life. That's the way we are trained to do it back home. We spar full on. Like, we don't hold back sparring. And in the wildcard, that's what they do too. We're trying to kill each other every sparring session. And when I get in for the fight, like, I feel 100% ready. I've sparred all the hard rounds, and I want to knockout. That's like, I want to go out there and knock these people out. And after my last fight, I've had a lot of stuff going on in camp, and I had a hand injury, and I was disappointed. That feeling of going the distance, I hated it, to be honest. So I put in a lot more work for this camp. My hand is 100% again. I'm feeling the best I've ever felt. I'm feeling very strong, fit, and it's an 8-round fight this time. So I definitely think I'm getting to finish this time.
Let's talk about your opponent a little bit. I believe it's Dylan Parsley, who's 13-1. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So what do you think about, this opponent as far as a step up in your career? Like, on paper, I mean, 13-1 record's pretty damn impressive. Do you feel this is the toughest fight of your career thus far?
Yeah, I think it'll be a tough fight. He's a lot taller than me. I think he's 2-3 inches taller than me. He's a long reach. He has won most of his fights just by going the distance and taking guys that distance with his long range and stuff like that. So he could be a bit tricky at the start. Just depends what way he approaches. I think if he runs, at the start, it'll take me a couple of rounds to break him down, and try and get the finish towards the end. My plan is I'm just going to go and put the pressure on him in the first round and just take it from there, just see what happens. I know he's tall, but he's very skinny. I think once I land some hard shots, I don't think he's going to be able to take the power.
That's one thing I appreciate a lot about boxing. As a mixed martial arts fan, we're used to just 3 5-minute rounds. And in boxing, you're afforded more, opportunities to go out and gather a little bit more information and make those adjustments. And in my opinion, adjustments are really what make champions in combat sports. You got to get that information and go out there and take it and make those proper adjustments. Does the idea of fighting a taller guy in Parsley, does that excite you a little bit?
I fought. I had 120 fights as an amateur. I fought every single style you would think of. I fought tall guys, short guys, everybody. So I'm very experienced with all different styles. I thought he was taller, to be honest. When I see him in the face-off, like we done a face-off at the media workout, and to be honest, I didn't think he was that tall, but obviously he is. But that's just probably just me thinking. But I don't know. I think it'll be a bit tricky at the start if he's trying to run, if he's trying to jab and move, but I think I'll break him down eventually and get a knockout.
So you're predicting a finish this time?
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Nice. What about the next year? I mean, obviously you got this fight coming up here on Thursday again on UFC Fight Pass. Hollywood Fight Night returns. Please do check it out. Callum Walsh, the king, in the main event. But a year from now, where do you see yourself, Callum?
A year from now, I definitely see myself, fighting for titles. I think I'm ready. I'm very experienced. I have 120 amateur fights. I've had 4 professional fights, and I've won them all easily. The sparring I'm getting in the wild card is I'm sparring world champions, top level athletes, like top level boxers, and I feel like I'm ready I'm only 21 years old, and I already feel like I'm ready, and definitely staying active for the next year and fight this 8-round fight, maybe one more 8-round fight in January, and then start taking on 10-rounders and start fighting for titles.
You've captured, a lot of the attention from hardcore fight fans. Dana White is one of them. Obviously, working with Freddie Roach. Freddie doesn't just work with anybody, but you're still sort of the pride of Cork, Ireland. Obviously, it's a strange world. You can't travel back and forth as probably much as you like to. Any message for your Irish fans that you'd like to, give out here on Extra Rounds?
Yeah, actually, what I want to say to them is I'm going to fight Thursday night. Friday night, I'm going to get on a plane, and Saturday, I'm going to be back in Cork, Ireland. So everybody in Cork, everybody in Ireland, I will see on Saturday after the fight.
Awesome. King Callum Walsh, again, check him out this Thursday night, Hollywood Fight Night here in Montebello, California. If you can't be there in person, you're watching live on UFC Fight Pass. Callum, appreciate the time as always, and I'm sure we'll be chatting soon.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thank you.
There he is, Callum Walsh, kind enough to join me on Extra Rounds. Again, Hollywood Fight Night coming your way. Let's see what time it is. 1 hour and 4 minutes from right now. It's a whole lot of stuff going on UFC Fight Pass tonight as well as tomorrow. But again, Callum Walsh in your main event of Hollywood Fight Nights. He takes on Dylan Parsley starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 in the East. And tomorrow it's Cage Warriors 145. You got the prelims starting at 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 a.m. here on the West Coast. Your main card starting at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific. Then you got the LFA later that evening, 9 p.m. Eastern start for LFA 146, 6 p.m. here on the West Coast. And then if you're up to staying up real late on Friday night, you got Budo Cento Championship, Volume 11, headed your way, starting at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific time. Want to remind you, if you go over to UFC Fight Pass right now and you're not a member, we can get you hooked up with that Extra Rounds buddy discount, 50% off your first month. Just use the code Extra Rounds, all one word, I believe. Let's press this button, we can see it better. Use code Extra Rounds, 50% off your first month. Additional rules apply. One of those rules are you got to tell everyone that you love Extra Rounds and TJ DeSantis and Ray Longo. Otherwise you don't get the 50% off. It's true. It's not true. Guy can try, right? You should join me once you do sign up for UFC Fight Pass for Fight Pass Friday. It goes down every Friday, starting real early, like 4:20 in the morning Pacific time. People like that time for some reason. We got fight events from UFC, Pride, WEC, Strikeforce, and more. Pretty much anything is up for grabs, and we might throw it on the air from the UFC Fight Pass library. I like to look back at MMA history, plus we have athlete spotlights of up-and-coming prospects. Tomorrow, we're doing it again. Like I said, Fight Pass Friday. I think we're starting with Pride early in the morning, so just tune in. Join me, and it'll be a good time. Sometimes you're overwhelmed. You don't know what you want to do exactly. Like, do I want to go down the WEC rabbit hole? Do I want to look at UFC fights? Do I want to relive Pride? Maybe I want to watch Fight Lore. Let me do the work of choosing for you, and maybe I'll teach you something along the way. Again, Fight Pass Fridays every Friday in the 24/7 feed, exclusively on UFC Fight Pass. Thanks for joining us across all the platforms today. YouTube, subscribe to the UFC Fight Pass YouTube channel. We're also on Twitch. Love that community over there, always bringing questions for guys like Ray and just making their voices heard. And then, of course, where we all started in, April or May of 2020 on Facebook. Appreciate that community as well, even though there are a lot of people that want me to give them my bank account so they can transfer funds so I can give it back to them and keep 20%. You know how that works, right? It doesn't work. Don't do that. If someone offers you something that's too good to be true, probably is. But I promise you that 50% off deal, not too good to be true, over at UFC Fight Pass. Just use the code Extra Rounds. For Ray Longo, I'm TJ DeSantis. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week on the ground in the greatest city in the world, New York City. Get you information how you can hang out with us in the Big Apple with like the best representative of New York, Iaquinta, hanging out with us. So please join us next week if you are in the area as we march toward UFC 281. All right, for Ray, I'm TJ. This has been Extra Rounds right here on UFC Fight Pass. Thanks for joining us.
This concludes our live broadcast of Extra Rounds.
Are we still on the air?
Watch the archive anytime on UFC Fight Pass or Facebook.com/UFC Fight Pass. You can also listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.